All right, man. We got my dog Remy in the building. How you doing?
Doing great. Hey man, you've been going viral, boy.
Hey, I'm trying.
Viral in the Miami perimeter.
Wait, I'm trying, man. How's everything been going with the training?
It's been great, man. It's been a real aggressive summer.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys are motivated, from vets on down to young guys this year. I think the NBA's in good hands.
And I know y'all see me in the gym with them a lot. Y'all gonna keep seeing me in here. So how you feeling about the finals? I want to get on that, first if I touch on anything. What you thinking?
I love the finals. I love the matchups. I think those two teams are so evenly matched.
Mm-hmm.
Both great defensively. Both shoot the ball well. Both have an amazing superstar. And both have great coaches, great systems. So it's crazy. It's like the yin, tick for tack, yin for yang. Like, it's like I punch you, you punch me. Like, it's a great finals. I'm a little sad. I don't have a favorite team in the NBA, but me growing up in Miami, obviously, you got a special heart for your hometown team. You know what I mean? And my brother Udonis, over there. So sad that they didn't make it, but they'll left next year.
Big facts. And I just found out he was from Miami. I thought he was from Philly.
I
thought you were from Philly. Yeah, I was thinking you was.
Trifling,
That's trifling as hell. I was thinking he was.
Hell, boy.
Man, that's crazy. So how was it coming up Miami? I know you moved here when you were 2.
Yep. I was born in Boston. Nobody really knows, but I moved here when I was 2. So, real Miami dude. Shout out to Boston too. Watertown. But how was it growing up in Miami? And growing up in Miami was great, man. It was a lot of kids, a lot of block football. A lot of outside activities is different than now. Kids stay inside and is on video games all day. So there's a lot of playing at the parks and doing those type of things. It wasn't no training going on like now. Like we used the hood and the older guys to get better. To push us and teach us how to compete and be competitive. So growing up in Miami was great, man. And even though it was a football state, you had to play football. I don't care if you played volleyball, basketball, baseball. You played football at some point in time before you figured out what sport you wanted to do. So growing up in Miami was amazing.
When would you say you took the training path when you got here? When did you start getting into training?
I moved to Broward County actually when I was in like 7th grade, and my parents got a better opportunity, so we moved out in Cooper City area, and it was tough because it was such a culture shock. Different from how we grew up in Miami Gardens or Carroll City, whatever you want to call it. For me, I consider myself an average basketball player up until I met my best friend Keon Dooling, 13-year NBA veteran, assistant coach for the Utah Jazz now currently. He really taught me how to work on my game. So I went from average to really good to getting myself a college scholarship. You know what I mean? Being able to think things that wasn't going to happen or wasn't in my future to turn it into being in my future, you know what I mean, through just hard work. I felt like it was a secret to everybody, the type of kids that we grew up with. It was a secret that, staying in the gym, working on certain things can actually get you better. I fell in love with that process. And I always knew that I always wanted to go back in some kind of way and empower kids to let them know, like, dude, I was average. And I started working on my game professionally, and I blossomed, you know what I'm saying? So I felt like that was a secret that I wanted to make sure that every kid growing up knew, and I just fell in love with that process. It was so crazy that even my college teammates, I was coming back in the gym at night and literally training them as teammates. Like, I'll never forget, we were in the gym working on doing all the stuff that Keon was showing me, man. Like, I didn't understand the why back then. I just understood drills, right? I feel like what takes it to a whole nother level of training is when you understand the why. Why are you just doing certain things? Does this match up with the talent level of the player and personnel? These are what makes training take things to the next level. So once I figured out the why, it was all she wrote for sure.
I could say like the most notable NBA players have worked with you at some point,
100%.
which is insane, and
it's in the training world, it's in it's almost like basketball. It evolves, right? When I was first starting and getting big in Miami, it was no other people. It was no other person doing basketball training. So like now there's a trainer on every street corner, and I think I have you ever have the only child syndrome, right? That's what I have. Like the only child syndrome for me is continuing to elevate and never being content, I say, because it's so many great, trainers, especially in Miami, doing their thing. So it just makes me elevate and continue to grow and stay young and keep evolving, as a trainer, because before it was no other people. So I can easily be sad that, this is the era where guys just love to train with everybody. They might say, hey, I want a little bit of Rennie, I want a little bit of Ronnie, I want a little bit of Andrew, I want a little bit of Rico Hines, whatever the case may be. And it's fun. I think all of us have to come together and communicate. And I think that the best thing to do is, like, for instance, if a player's working with you for a couple weeks and, hey, he's got to go to Rico, hey, you communicate with Rico. Hey, Rico, so-and-so's going here. This is what we've been working on. This is what he said he needed to get better. This is what the team says he needs to get better. Whatever you need, information to find out what we did, statistics, analytics, anything to help you get him better while he's with you, let's do it. Because he's going to come back to me, then he's going to go back to you, he's going to go back to whoever. At the end of the day, that player is getting better. Back in the day, our philosophy was, old school, like a Kobe Bryant would say, don't let everybody drive your car. You don't want everybody teaching you. You don't know who to listen to, what's right, what's wrong. And teams frown upon that. Like, damn, you worked out with 10 people this offseason? Like, which one are you listening to? Are you not confused? Are you confused? Like, but now this is a different era. So this is what it's about. Like, I just think that it's not a competition. I think trainers need to understand it is not a competition. It's all about training the player that's in front of you, right? And getting out of our feelings and saying, well, that's my guy. And, I think trainers have to stop looking forward to seeing a player do well and to be able to post something that you were doing in the gym. Mind you, man, that layup or that game-winning left hand or that game-winning pull-up, or they've probably been doing that since they've been in childhood. Think about it, in their backyard, 3, 2, 1, visualizing whoever player that they were, they probably were doing that, right? It's not that we don't get credit, it's just we can't be bigger than the player. At the end of the day, the player put the work in. The player was dedicated. The player was focused. The player was locked in. So the player gets most of the credit. I think we just bring it out in them, right? You might have all the talent in the world. If I'm able to help you bring it out a little bit and increase your percentage and teach you certain things, and man, I'm all for it, Definitely.
For you, who's the first NBA client you had when you initially started? That you remember? Definitely
Keon Dooling, man. I come in the era of like the Keon Doolings, the Malik Allens, the Rasul Butlers, rest his soul, R.I.P. my brother, the James Joneses, the Udonis Haslams, like that era, where, it was just about getting in the gym and making sure you're stacking those days and hours, right? I think the training now is just totally different. It's evolved in so many different moves and concepts and actions, so it's different. But Keon Dooling was my very first.
Okay, so he taught you, then you taught him back essentially.
I wouldn't. So I wouldn't say. Exactly. So like he taught me how to work on my game, and I remember, if he's been teaching me, it's weird for me to be training him now, right? So like, as I stopped playing myself, and he's seen me every year, like, people change jobs. The hardest thing in life is figuring out what you want to do in life, right? People might say they want to be a firefighter, get into it and be like, you know what, this ain't for me, quit, try something new. Get into being the police, quit, try something new. I think when he saw me saying, I'm not trying something new, I don't care what the light at the end of the tunnel is, I'm just working and grinding and stacking days and trying to make this my profession because of the love of the game, right? He said, you know what, it's time for you to start training me. Because I remember my brother, I would love to just talk to him after games. Like, as a kid, you never have NBA friends. You grow up watching these guys on TV. So when you finally get an NBA friend, and I got his number, you gotta be crazy. I'm calling him every second. Hey, bro, why did you do this? How did you do that? How did it feel guarding this person? Why did you do this? It went from like that to, hey, man, You should have drove. You should have made the extra pass. You should have hold your follow through. Started getting to that conversation now, and then he starts listening, starts doing it in practice. He's like, bro, you know what? That advice you gave me in practice is kind of like low key working. So like that following summer, it was just like, hey, you know what? It's time for me to let you work on my game. I remember Keon came into the league. He was a non-shooter. He was somebody that needed work on his, 3-ball. He can get to his pull-up. He's a freak athletically, can get to the rim whenever he want. His pace was very fast, so that's two things that I always wanted to work on was pace and to slow him down, but keep him fast, show him a middle speed too as well, but also work on his tray ball because I saw this coming in the NBA changing. So we really worked on it one summer, man. He went up almost 10% from three, made almost 40 more threes that season, 40, 50 more threes that season. And I'll never forget it. It wasn't no Instagram or Facebook or anything. So it was like after the game, it was only one way you could hear an interview. You weren't going to hear the playbacks on Instagram or anything like that. So I remember him saying, honestly, it's my coach, my shooting coach back home, Remy. And like once he said that, like it was crazy. It was so many people calling him like, yo, I want to get with him. Like, what did he do? How did he do it? Like whatever he did, bro, I want to do it. And it just started flowing from there, for sure.
So who was the next clients after him? Who were one of the people that hit you?
Who was it? I'll probably say like Malik Allen, who also used to train with us while I was still playing as well because he played for the Heat. And I was still a player, but we knew each other from there. But once I turned trainer, he was like, oh, I'm about to start getting work with Remy every offseason as well, too. Like, he taking this thing serious. Then Rasul came, then Udonis came. Like, it was just like a flowing James Jones. It just started flowing.
UD, he was that guy. People don't know, he was that guy back then. Like, he played hard, man.
Nah, everybody knows that, man. I don't know why people think that. People don't know that. Udonis was Mr. Midi, the king mid-range jumper. The epitome of an energy guy that was an amazing, always a top 5 rebounder for a whole decade. You know what I mean? Amazing defender. He was an undersized 4, right? That was versatile, guarding 3s, guarding 2s, guarding 5s, like he was like the new age Dennis Rodman with a jumper. You know what I mean? So Udonis was major, and also just major the culture of Miami, the culture of working hard. Look how he changed his body. He's somebody. His story is amazing. How he made the team. My good friend Tony Ferrantino, who's been in broadcast for Miami Heat for so many years, always tells me this story. To tell kids and tell different people. Man, Udonis made the team because they were chasing a loose ball. And this dude went all into the stands and just kept going and kept playing, and everyone was looking at him like, what's wrong with this dude? And Pat Riley was just like, bro, why did you keep going? He said, I ain't stopped because I ain't hear no whistle. That's sick. If Pat Riley is sick as Pat Riley is, he probably got goosebumps listening to that. He was like, well, I don't care what he does good, what he does bad, sign that guy because his energy is probably going to be contagious. So somebody like him to make it from the ground up like that, it's a blessing.
Just for playing hard, he gotta
playing hard.
Y'all hear that?
That's it.
just for playing hard.
Just for playing hard. That energy is contagious. So anybody that's not playing hard on your team, you see how hard Udonis is playing, you forced to play that hard.
That's it. And it kind of speaks to now, his energy is contagious because he's still on the team.
Yeah,
there's a reason for that.
You first and foremost, don't get it twisted. And y'all look at me when I say this in this camera. Udonis is probably the most in shape on that basketball team. And Udonis, obviously, in basketball is all about rhythm, right? He's not playing, so sometimes they stick him out there. He might turn the ball over or not catch a pocket pass on time. The rhythm timing, you have to be playing to have that. If he's playing consistent minutes, at this age right now, you play Udonis 20 minutes, he's going to average a double-double. I put anything on it. Because ain't nobody going to want it better than him, more than him. And if he's allowed to play his game, shoot his midi, and y'all don't even know, Udonis got a ratchet now from 3. So he's he's definitely evolved with the game and what's going on now. But it's a young man's league. It's a young man's league, and for somebody that's so competitive like him, of course, it bothers him that he's not playing. But he understands that his why is bigger than him. So he gives his effort, his time, his spirits to the basketball team so that they could elevate. They can ask him questions because he's been there before. And most importantly, he ain't no vet sitting on over there with no cane. He'll beat you in sprints. He'll outshoot you. He'll out-rebound you. He'll out-hustle you in practice. So at the end of the day, he's leading by example both ways. So he deserves to be there for a reason.
I've been in the lab with you. I always tell you how simple your workouts are and how it translates, because I've been watching a lot of film on Brandon Knight and how it's like a lot of the drills that you've been doing, it translates. Like he does the exact same thing in the game. Like it's kind of crazy. Like, I was watching some of this stuff last night. So what a lot of guys you've been training, like you had Jeff Green, Marvin Bagley now, you know, like a ton of players. Like there's like I can go down the list, to be honest.
Yep.
What's like your focus with each? Like I know I'm guessing you go by position.
Yeah, I mean you go by position, but the main thing I think as a trainer is to communicate with their teams, or even just do the research of how these guys are being used, right? You don't ever want the guys to go against the grain. I know everybody has aspirations to get better and add so many things during the summertime, but guess what? You bring all these tools back to your team and you can only use one of them. What would you wasted a whole summer, right? So whatever they want you to be, you be it, and you fall in love with that role, and you be the best in the world at that role, right? You win their confidence, and then you can do a little bit more, because there's a 10% gray area in the game where nobody has control, no coaches, no players, right? So you might get it with a low shot clock, 5 on the shot clock. You got to get into a step back shot. Guess what? If you're not working on that, what's going to happen when you have to shoot that low shot clock? 9 times out of 10, air ball, bad shot, block shot. But if you're working on that 10% where you put in the work after practice, you know what? If I have 40 minutes to work out, 10 of those 40 minutes, I'm going to work on my game. Things that I might not get to do in the game, but it's only 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes of it. The bulk of my work needs to be exactly how I'm being used, because you'll go against the grain of why a team wants to pay you. Like at the end of the day, this is a job, it's an occupation that pays you lots of money, you know, to be in a role. Why not star in that role? Why not, you know, embrace that role and be the best at it, instead of, man, you know, I need to work on my trade ball because everybody else is doing it. That's cool, but you better not waste too much time doing it, because it's going to take away from you embracing your role and falling in love with your role. You're going to more so fall in love with the 10% instead of the 90. You see, there's 90 of what your team needs you to be. Then there's 10% that you need to expand your game, right? If you work all summer on your 10%, you get back to your 90 when you get to your team, you're looking clueless, and you wonder why they want to go to a different direction. You have to evolve. If you were the man back in the day and you're not anymore and you're a role player, fall in love with that role. Don't fall in love with who you used to be, because then that gets you out the league. You have to change your game, change your style, and embrace who you are at the moment.
How do you? I wanted to ask you. You know, like a lot of teams are leaning towards these 2-way contracts.
Yep.
Instead of like, you know, like the 1-year deals. I think those are going to be out of style in a couple of years.
What, the 1 years?
Yeah, I think they're going to lean towards them 2-year deals because it's cheaper. You know, so with the, like, as far as player development, you know, all this stuff. How do you feel about that?
Well, it all depends on the level of the player. Because I mean, if it's a 1-year deal for an elite player, mid-level player, that ain't gonna go out of style, because those guys are very important, you know. Those are specialists, you know, specialist scorers or specialist shooters. They're gonna be journeymen, you know. Teams are gonna use them for what they need them to be used for. And the way the NBA is going young, 2-way is gonna always be the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, 15, 14, 13, and 12 man, they ain't playing that much anyway. So you might as well get a 2-way and develop them for cheap than signing somebody who ain't going to play for that much amount of money. You know what I mean? But I think what's going to end up happening, and I think COVID showed it, was a lot of these vets coming back and getting 10 days, playing in the G League, and being major impacts to these teams. Shows you that you still need vets, because it can't be the blind leading the blind. It can't be young guy leading young guy. Like, you got rookies coming in and saying, "What's up, vet?" to guys that are 25. It's like, dude, you're not a vet yet. Yeah. But when you look down the line, the oldest person on the team is 26. Yeah. So it's like, damn, they like, what kind of, you know what I mean? Like, you got to have a few vets to really show them the way. Guys that's been through it, that's experienced certain things. That can be an extension of coaches, because sometimes, like, when coaches are in the coach's seat, you know, players kind of have a disconnect to, like, real life. They look at them like the police, right? Because they're the head coach, right? You can't really, but at the end of the day, you need that vet that can relay the information from the head coach to those young guys, right? Yeah. And also that vet that is okay with not playing if it comes to that, right? And understand that his calling is to lead and use your experience to cut the gap for those young guys to make sure that they're better quicker than you were. You know what I mean? So definitely.
What would you say is like a wild story you've had with your training experience, like with a player or somebody?
Oh man,
I know you've had a ton. You've been in the game for some time.
I've had a ton. I've had a ton, man. But I wouldn't say a wild story, but I think one of my favorite summers was last summer. Last summer and last spring, like ish. So the last summer, a summer and a half, right? You know, let's just start with the Trevor Ariza situation, who was signed with OKC. OKC, you know, was going young, so he came down to Miami. He was working with me this whole time. Didn't know what was going to happen. Was he going to get waived? Was he going to get cut? Was he going to get traded? Like, whatever. They just held it out until he finally found the right situation, and he ended up getting with the Heat. I think that situation was so great because he depended on me to make sure he was as ready as he was going to get. And Miami Heat, they saluted me because they were so impressed with how in shape he was, how ready, his rhythm. He was just plug and play, and it's like he didn't miss a beat. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't miss a beat, and they were really impressed by it, and I was excited by that. And I think this past summer, it was so many guys that didn't have jobs, like Brandon Knight, you know, Justin James, Justin Anderson, Greg Monroe, what's my man's name? I can't forget it, man. Tim Frazier. A lot of these guys that were here, Isaiah Thomas, Goran Dragic, who had all situations. They all had situations, man, and to see them get back in the league and be impactful, CB Knight after so many years, get back in the league, finally wear that Dallas jersey, and then also have a 20-point game or 18-point game wearing that jersey. It was amazing. Seeing Justin Anderson come off surgery, nobody really wanted him. He came in and dominated the G League, led the G League in scoring, had multiple call-ups, was amazing, back in the league. Greg Monroe, who's been a max player in the NBA, who the NBA gave up on. They said he's not a part of the traditional bigs now. He's the old school big. Man, he got in the best shape of his life. He went in the G League. He stayed consistent, stayed solid, stacked days, multiple call-ups from multiple NBA teams, and had great minutes. It was just great. Tim Frazier, same thing, got in there, multiple call-ups, had great minutes with teams. So I think it's easy to train a superstar, right? Like, what's the expectation, right? But when you have those type of guys, you got to really put in work physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So many days they don't want to come in, but you got to force them and talk to them. Some days it's just talking. Some days it's motivating, right? It ain't about just doing drills, right? I think that was the most impactful thing for me. I had an amazing time doing it, and I took the challenge, and I love it.
Thank you, my guy. Always coming through for me, man.
Yes, sir.
My man.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, man.